Hello and welcome. This is Talking in Spirals,
And we're your co hosts. My name is Brennan,
and I'm Maria.
and we're talking all things slow living and sustainability and just our general interests on this podcast.
With only a little bit of chaos. Just kidding. There was actually a lot of chaos.
This is episode 3. We have made it to episode 3. We literally just had to cut out 12 minutes of us laughing hysterically like unhinged hyenas into the mic. So the mood is high.
Today, we're talking about what it's like to be content creators. We have both been content creators for a while now.
And we get a lot of questions about it, which is totally valid because I remember wondering before I got into this all the time, how are these people making money? How does this job work? Do they actually even work? So let's get into it. No, we don't work, and no, we don't make money.
True. But before we talk about that, what is your hyperfixation this week?
That's a great question. So, my current hyperfixation is a silversmithing class that I've been taking for the past couple months. At the beginning of October of 2023, I got it in my head that I needed a hobby that wasn't directly linked to my income. I feel like as freelance creative people, there's this urge to kind of like monetize or create content about what you enjoy. And that could be beneficial to an extent, but I think it's really good for creative people to have a creative outlet that is quite literally just for fun and personal satisfaction. And I also think it's really good to learn a new skill and be actively terrible at something. Spoiler alert. I'm not that good at silversmithing.
When you first told me you were joining a silversmithing class, I had to look it up and see what it is. So for our listeners who may not know, what is silversmithing?
So it's actually just broadly metalsmithing, but I've exclusively worked with silver. So predominantly it's a jewelry making class, but we're using the torch, we're melting our metal down using solder to create cool little objects. I've made, I think, 6 rings at this point, and it's been so much fun. It's just a completely different skill than anything I've ever done in my life. It's a totally foreign concept to me, but if you watch my videos, you see my hands. There's a lot of metal on these guys. I really like vintage silver and turquoise and stones like that. So I figured, let's give it a try. Let's just try and make something new and try and use a part of my brain that I've never used before. And I'm in my second semester. So I did my first 8-week semester with one of my best friends. Hi, Kelly. This is a test to see if she listens to our podcast. Kelly, text me right now if you're listening. She's going to text me like 6 months from now. And we did an 8-week semester that ended in December, and now we're in our second semester, and it's just been really fun. And I really like that I get to go, one night a week and do that, and just kind of enjoy creative expression. It's been super fun. I've been really loving it.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I've been doing the same kind of thing this year where I'm trying to find things that I might be good at or that I'm interested in that aren't related to content creation, videos, or photography. So I definitely think it's also good to branch out. My hyperfixation has to do with that too. For January, I chose crochet as one of my hobbies to learn, and I'm making a temperature blanket, and I'm quite literally obsessed with it. I am caught up to the hour almost the entire time.
Explain to people who don't know what a temperature blanket is.
Temperature blankets were a big thing in the crochet knitting community. They started popping up 2 or 3 years ago. You knit one row for that day's high temperature, average temperature, low temperature, whatever you choose. Everybody does them differently. I decided to be quite extra this year, and instead of doing one row for each temperature of the day, I'm doing 10 stitches for each hour of the day's temperature. So I'm changing my colors like 2 or 3 times in one row, depending on the temperature. And in early January, Western New York, along with most of the country, was hit by the huge snowstorms. So I'm adding in the extra factor of weaving in like a blue sparkly thread to signify a snowstorm. So I'm quite literally obsessed.
I can't wait to see the final project. I guess I'm going to be waiting a while.
It'll be a while.
So once it's done, how big is it going to be?
I did my measurements, so it'll be like an oversized lap blanket. A lot of people that do it pick really thick, chunky yarn or like really big needles or hooks. I chose thin yarn because I'm using cotton and bamboo, no acrylic. So a lot of it is thinner than like the thicker acrylic. So mine's going to be an oversized lap blanket instead of like the massive king size blankets that people make.
Did you know how to crochet before this?
I made exactly one thing. It is this string of pearl, like plant pot kit that I bought online. I don't remember where I bought it from, but it came with like a video instruction, step by step guideline. That's the only other thing I'd crocheted. And of course, I decided to take on a whole freaking blanket for 2024.
I can't wait to see it. That's so exciting. And I like that our hyperfixations are along the same theme, which is being creative and specifically being creative making something with your hands versus so much of what we do is digital now. So
Yes.
it's really exciting to kind of, I don't want to say get your hands dirty because you don't really get your hands dirty when you crochet, but get your hands involved.
It's so nice though.
Yeah.
It's nice to do things with your hands and like have even just 5-10 minutes out of the day where you're not staring at a screen.
Yeah, and because you committed to the whole year, I think it's going to really be a big part of your life.
Yes, I'm crocheting about an hour a day,
Oh my
but I'm
God.
crocheting like 5 minutes at a time. I'll just do like a little bit at a time, but it's about an hour a day. But I'm getting faster with it like as I keep going through it because at first I was like, I had to count every single stitch and make sure I didn't mess up. So we're getting there.
Well, I think it looks amazing.
Thanks.
And if you are listening right now and you'd like to see it, you can check out Maria's Instagram, TikTok. She posts about the blanket a lot, and it's just a really cool project.
Thank you.
I'm so stoked for you. When Maria commits to doing something, she commits. She goes hard. Yeah, you're intense. I love it.
I don't know how to not be intense.
I don't know how. I don't know how people do it.
Speaking of hyperfixations, I literally fixate on something and I go all in. I don't know how to not.
I'm the same. I know that's why we get along because it's a sickness.
You're not wrong.
I'm the same. Like I can't chill. I don't know what that's like. How do you chill?
You don't.
How do you not? I don't know. I got to work on it.
I probably should, but I'm just going to keep leaning into my hyperfixations because they make me happy.
Me too, as long as they're not crazy, you know?
True. There was a point where I was making like a loaf of sour bread every 2 days. Like that's a little much. We're a carb heavy family.
I am too. I love carbs, but I don't know. It just goes bad so quick.
That's why you just got to eat it faster, you know?
Yeah, you can eat it faster and you can also freeze it. Just a pro tip for anyone who doesn't know. That's what I talk about when I talk about food waste. I constantly bring up freezing is your best friend. I think people want like a fun, sexy food waste tip and
Yeah.
sometimes those are nice, but for the most part if you have something that you don't want to go to waste, like 9 times out of 10, you can probably freeze it and extend its life by like 3 months.
Yeah. And you don't need like a giant second freezer to be able to do it. A lot of times people, because we have a second freezer, but we lived so long without one, you can do it without a second freezer.
Yeah, you totally can. I don't have a second freezer. Anyways, we always get on the subject of food waste somehow.
That's okay.
We went down a spiral.
So we want to start by talking about what it's like to be content creators. Do you want to start and give a bit of insight?
I do. Thanks for asking. So, for those who don't know, because we mentioned it 500 times on the first episode, we're both full-time content creators. And I think there's confusion as to how that works, which I can relate to, like I said, because I used to always wonder, how are these people making money? And I think there's a lot of common misconceptions. So we kind of wanted to go over like what we do on a regular basis for work. I have people reach out to me and ask me how I got into this all the time. And I went over that in the first episode of this podcast, how we both fell into content creation, specifically sustainability content creation. But there's a lot of topics within the industry that I think aren't really commonly known within the general public.
And I feel like only in the last year or so, I see a lot of those resources and content creators themselves kind of opening the door and telling people how they do this.
Yeah, because I didn't know. And I feel, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like if I'd had access to those resources my first year of doing this, I would be so much further along in my career than I am now. But there's no point in harping on that. But, anyways, it's a little weird. Like, it's kind of like a taboo to talk about how people make money making content.
People don't like talking about it.
Yeah, I guess no one likes talking about how much money they make, but people specifically within like influencing content creation really don't disclose how much they charge, how they handle taxes, all that stuff. It's kind of hush hush.
My theory is that content creators don't want as many people getting involved in the industry to lose partnerships.
I mean, that's probably true. I think for me, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, when people come to me and ask, how do you make money? It's hard for me to answer the question because it's not a one size fits all thing.
True.
It's a really kind of tedious, ever changing landscape. And the reason for that is that we are freelancers, and not everyone is cut out to be a freelancer. And if I'm honest, sometimes we both question if we are cut out to be freelancers.
Also, very true. I feel like I question that at least once a week.
But I mean, for the most part, I would say that we are pretty good at it compared to a lot of people I know that really wouldn't be able to handle the fluctuation in income. It's something that you kind of just have to be fully aware of when you're going into a freelance content creation job. You kind of have to be prepared to put money aside and save and live within your means to a pretty extreme level sometimes, because there will be months where you could make $10,000 and then the next month make nothing. And I'm not exaggerating.
It takes a lot of adjustment. When I first became a full-time content creator, I had been working a job at a nonprofit full-time and been doing content creation on the side. When you go from having a full-time paycheck to having, well, $4,000 or $5,000 here, $8,000 this month, but $200 this month from TikTok, it changes every single month. You have no set income. You can't always guarantee that you'll get paid on time.
That's a huge one.
It's a huge adjustment, and I'm 7 or 8 months into doing this full time, and I'm still adjusting. I feel like it's something that is going to take a few years before you get a grasp on knowing how to make it a little bit more normalized.
Exactly. And I'm a couple years in, and I still feel that way. And I question this decision, this lifestyle choice all the time. And then I do things like I did today, where I took a bar class at noon, and then I went to lunch with a friend, and then I came home and I worked at 3. And I'm like, I don't know if I could go back to a 9 to 5. And then I have days sometimes where I work 12 hours. So it's not consistent. And if you really thrive on consistency, it might not be for you to be a freelancer in any capacity unless you're able to really, really streamline your schedule and make it into a structured thing.
I can definitely relate to that because I use time blocking to plan. So my schedule stays the same like pretty much every week. Mondays I do meetings and short form content. Tuesdays I edit all of the stuff I recorded on Monday. Wednesdays I record and edit YouTube. So I have set days and times where I do these different things. That gives me the bit of consistency that I need. But on days where my husband might be off from work on Monday, I can adjust that schedule when I need to because I work for myself.
Right.
And that I don't think I could ever give that up again.
It's really hard to imagine. It's really hard to imagine, especially once you know that you can make more money being a freelancer than you did at your 9 to 5 job.
Yes.
Not that we are yet, but you can.
Yes, but even so, say for example that you make $5,000 on a brand deal for one video, you're probably putting in 10 hours of work total on the far end between emailing back and forth, reading over contracts, writing the script, going back and forth with the brands, recording, editing. So you're spending probably 10 hours, and that's more money that I would have made in an entire month at my nonprofit job. So you make a lot more.
And I mean, this goes without saying, we're so much happier.
Oh, yeah, 110%.
For the most part, there are definitely downsides, and we've kind of touched on that. But I mean, comparatively, when you were working your 9 to 5 job, every time I talked to you, you were really going through it.
I was miserable. I was so miserable.
And it's not, this path is not for everyone. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that in this episode. But for me, I personally, and again, people are going to say that this is privilege to say, and it is. Like, I'm not going to deny that. But for me, having my time freedom and my autonomy is worth a little bit of a pay cut. That's just me. I know for a fact I have never made a lot of money in my life. I've never been in a higher tax bracket. So I know that I can live on a lower income. I can do so comfortably. I'm not challenged in living below my means. I keep my cost of living low and I still manage to live a really full life. And I would rather do that, at least in this chapter of my life, than work a job that I hate.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Having an alternative path, choosing an alternative path has been incredibly beneficial for my mental health as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's so true. When you said earlier $5,000 for one deal, I feel like people with no insight into the content world are, they might be shocked by that number. Because I think when you and I started, we would have been absolutely shocked by that number.
shocked. My first brand deal was $250 for one video. That was my first brand deal before I knew that people made money doing this.
I think mine was 150.
I only learned from meeting you and becoming friends with you that you can make a lot more money.
Yeah, I don't think, again, it's not talked about and people don't tell you what they charge.
I'm pretty sure I told you what I was charging and you said double them. Just double them right now. Double them all right now.
And I said, you better raise those rates.
Yeah.
I said, you better raise those rates right now. I like interrupted you. I was double it today, triple it. I think I don't want to come across as entitled and I don't want people to think that we put an exorbitant value on little iPhone videos. I'm sure people think that that's laughable, but the truth is that the clients that we often work for are very large companies with very large marketing departments and marketing budgets. Casey Neistat broke it down really well. And I think it influenced a lot of content creators when he did. And I'm going to butcher this, but he basically said that these same companies that want to work with content creators, when they produce a regular television ad, it could be $1 million budget, it could be a $500,000 budget. I mean, they vary greatly, but to put it into perspective, depending on the brand that you're working with, they have massive budgets. And some of the brands that you and I have worked with have commercials on cable television every time there's a commercial break when you're watching the news. So they have massive budgets, and those ads require a team of 50 to 100 people, depending on depending on the scale of the ad. There has been a lot of reconciliation over the past couple of years with the fact that content creation and influencing is a very valid and real career that you can take. It's a very reputable skill set. And my reasoning behind thinking that, and I'm not saying that our content in particular is the best in the world, but I am proud of what I do. When you watch a regular television commercial, there is a massive team of people that made that possible. There's someone who writes the script. There's someone who casts the people that are going to be in the commercial. There's a set designer. There's a costume designer. There's hair. There's makeup. There's a voiceover actor. There's an actor on the screen. There's a team behind the scenes. There's a director, cinematographer, a sound guy, all of the above. I mean, I could go on. When you create an ad for that same brand in the comfort of your home, you are the actor, you're the director, you are the editor, you are the sound guy, you are the cinematographer, you're everything. You're doing about 20 to 30 jobs in one.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it makes me feel very proud of the work that we do.
And I also want to specify, I think people don't understand that a lot of the work that we do, they will never see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're listening to this and you aren't familiar with the world of content creation, for what we do, there's basically two types of content creation that can be monetized. Maria and I both consider ourselves content creators before we would consider ourselves influencers because we are creating original content that can be used in so many different ways. There's influencing, which is posting an ad to your own platform for a certain brand and pushing that ad out to your audience that you have grown. And then there's something called UGC.
I did a lot of UGC back in 2022. Basically, you're making a video for the brand social media page. So you don't always have to have your face in it or anything like that, but they are using your photos and videos to post on their own page without tagging you as the creator.
UGC stands for user generated content.
And a lot of brands, that's how they produce content for their social media, by hiring it out to content creators.
And a lot of brands nowadays, if not all of the brands that we know and love, are completely reliant on social media for their income and their marketing. I mean, going back to what I was saying about that television commercial, how many people are even watching cable TV anymore? I don't know a ton of people under a certain age that actively watch cable television. And if they are, they're not watching the ads. They either change the channel, they mute it, or guess what? They pick up their phone.
Yes.
So the outreach that social media marketing has is immensely powerful. And it wasn't until a couple of years into this career that I started to value what we do on the level that I think we should.
So moral of the story is charge more.
Charge more. So there's the ads that you post on your page, as we discussed, and then there's UGC. And I think people see our pages and think that we only post a few ads a month, so we must not have other content that we're creating. UGC can really cover a lot of different topics. For me, in the past, I've had UGC deals with brands where I had to develop entire recipes for them, then film those recipes, write out those recipes, test those recipes, photograph everything, and write copy. So it really is a full content creation, a full scope content creation gig. And I don't post about it because I'm not being paid to. So that work goes into my portfolio that stays behind the scenes. So there's lots of different ways to create content on a freelance basis, and UGC is just one of them that I think like the general public probably isn't familiar with.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to mention that there is a third type of content that we produce, which is what we post day to day to build our audiences. So I know when I was first starting to do that, I was posting a lot of quote unquote free content for brands to build my own portfolio without getting paid and to kind of build up a reputable following. So I feel like it's important to mention because we don't just do ads. We're constantly thinking of new ideas that have nothing to do with getting paid.
I mean, we both post a lot
Yes.
of content,
Yes.
and 99% of that content was created for free. We
Yes.
take sponsorships and paid deals and UGC gigs to pay ourselves to create that content for free.
Yes, and that's also why I don't call myself an influencer. I call myself a content creator because
Right.
I may do an ad with a brand once a month, twice a month, but that doesn't make the other 28 days where I'm producing content influencing content. I'm not influencing people to buy things, especially we
No.
are sustainability, slow living focused content creators. We are not pushing things for people to buy every day like people who are Amazon influencers. So,
Absolutely. And I think there's a huge difference. And maybe I'm a little bit too resistant to the term influencer just because it like holds a taboo for me.
yes.
And maybe I need to get over that because it's a very serious, legitimate career path. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Of course, I start to have ethical concerns when it's like swipe up, use my code every day for something that people don't need that's going to go to landfill.
Yes.
But oops, I almost went on a rant. But that aside, for the most part, conceptualizing a new idea to create a new video every single day, because I post 5 days a week, a new video for the most part. Very rarely do I not do that. And Maria posts even more than me. That's a lot of creative energy. And I think of influencing and the influencer economy. I think of something completely different. I think of very posed selfies with I don't know, holding a product versus like an entire creative concept designed around a product. We're also both very selective about what we will take inherently as people who prioritize sustainability and have built platforms around sustainability. I say no to 90% of the deals that I'm offered. Like literally 90%. And it actually hurts because I'm not a wealthy person and I have to turn down deals that really hurt to turn down. Like, should we talk about it?
Should we? Let's just say that back in November, we turned down deals.
We both got offers for a certain climate conference. I've already made videos about this. I don't know why I'm acting scared. I didn't sign anything. I never signed anything. Did you?
No.
We're fine. Yeah, it was COP28, the climate conference. That's, you can probably tell that we're tiptoeing around this because it's just a little bit of a touchy subject. But basically, we were both offered deals to promote COP28, which is the global climate conference. The climate conference happens on a yearly basis. And this year it was held in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. And I got a deal, I got an offer to go and attend it. And, you know, all expenses paid, trip to Dubai to go to a life changing event, obviously of interest to me in terms of like my personal interests and my career interests. And I'm not going to lie, it was the biggest payout I would have ever received in my entire life. And it ultimately ended up being something that neither Maria or myself could get behind. There were just a lot of ethical concerns, and it sucked. I don't know how else to say it. We turned it down. We both turned it down, and we have a lot of other friends who turned it down. And it was really tricky because things get a little dicey when you monetize your ethics. We've both built platforms around sustainability and environmental concerns and caring for the planet, which I wouldn't do it any other way. There's a cap to what you can do with that because not only do I just objectively as a person not feel okay about promoting things that I don't think are right, I also know that I risk losing my credibility. I risk losing people's trust when I choose to take on paid brand deals that don't align with my values. Again, that's where things get dicey because sometimes you need to make money.
I was about to say that it is directly impacts how much money you bring home at the end of the week.
And that was a pretty extreme example, what happened with us in November, but little versions of that happen all the time.
All the time. All the time.
And it's worth it for sure, but it is worth noting. So, moving on from that, we are both represented by an agency, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand about content creation as well. Prior to being represented by our agency, we used to represent ourselves. And that, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people, just trying to validate my own experience, cites no sources. That is like a second job.
Before I was managed by our agency, I was spending probably 10 hours a week alone on emails, emailing back and forth with brands, constantly pitching myself, probably another hour a week doing contracts. And if I wanted to do this full time, there goes 15 of my hours of the week between administration stuff.
I should specify people hear 10 hours a week on emails, people that work a 9 to 5 job, and they're like, hell yeah, I do 10 hours a week on emails. Yeah, but you're getting paid to do it.
Yes.
Like when you're a freelancer, you could do 10, even more hours a week on emails, and you might see absolutely zero financial return.
Yes.
Once you get to a certain place with content creation, in my opinion, it is worth it. We pay our agency a percentage of every dollar that we make. And I believe it to be money well spent because my workload and my anxiety and frustration with my job have been cut in half.
Yes. To compare, I spend probably now 2 hours a week on administration things, and then I have 38 hours to create the content that I want to create. And I never thought that I would be at a point to join an agency until I spoke with other creators and learned that agencies existed. I mean, I feel like a lot of people do this behind closed doors and you don't really know about any of it.
Just like everything in the industry, a lot of it is very hush hush. So I hope we're doing an okay job at kind of like giving an intro to what it is this job is like, at least from our perspective, because that's all we can speak to. It should be said that our experience is very niche because we're in the sustainability space. It's very different from somebody who is influencing like Amazon finds.
So I think that there are a couple different types of influencers. There are some people that push products 24/7. There are some people that are doing more creative influencing, aka content creators like us. And there are also people that are just doing like day in the lives where there's subtle product incorporation. I'm sure there are several other types of content creators out there, but
Oh my God, there's hundreds of kinds, but those are kind of the ones that we see the most of.
yes. And all three of those types, ourselves included, use what are called affiliate links. We would get a cut of the sale from the product. I would say both Brennan and I are very limited on the types of affiliate deals that we accept and promote. But it is a lot harder than people who do not have sustainable values that can say yes to every brand that comes forward to them wanting to promote a product.
Yeah, it is a fine line that you have to walk being a sustainability content creator, because the very nature of these platforms that we use for our jobs is consumerism. TikTok shop, Instagram shop.
It has become horrifying. TikTok shop has become horrifying.
Yeah, and our next episode, we're going to talk about influencing and the dangers of influencing and hyperconsumption and consumerism. So stay tuned for that one. But basically, the platforms that we use are designed to promote hyperconsumerism, and our entire goal with what we do is combating that. So you have to get a little bit creative in the ways that you do your work. That being said, I think I used to feel embarrassed or maybe like there was something wrong with taking paid deals. And I now have a completely different understanding of that. Maria, I don't want to speak for myself. I want to speak for you. So rude. Maria, in my opinion, I watch all of her content and I get so much value from her content. She has taught me so many things.
Ditto.
Thank you. Oh my God.
We're just gonna like hype each other up for a few minutes.
I love that. She has taught me so many things. Like I literally started sourdough baking because of Maria. I've learned so many different skills. We're constantly sharing different things. She is constantly sharing things that improve people's lives, and she makes videos. She makes content for free for the vast majority of people to consume. So, if she wants to take a deal that pays her salary, that allows her to continue to make that content on a daily basis, we should support that. If you like consuming someone's content, if you're constantly checking out their videos, if you really enjoy what they do, supporting them when they take a paid deal is really important.
Yes. Okay. First off, ditto. Your content has been the same way to me. I find so much value in your content and I enjoy when your videos come up on my feed because it's like a break from the chaos of everything else in my feed. So, ditto, all of that. But it's also important to mention too that even just watching a video all the way through, liking a video, leaving a comment, even if it's not a brand deal, is very helpful with supporting content. Not that the different platforms have great creator programs, but the more views, the more engagement we get, the more brands will reach out to us to work together and you will be supporting us secondhand.
That kind of brings us to a topic that we wanted to touch on today, which is mental health as it relates to creating internet content. I know everybody loves to talk about the negative side of social media, and I 100% am here for it. Like, your phone is rotting your brain. I'm sure mine is too. Don't quote me on that. Consult with an expert. But 100% our addiction to our phones is not good. Like, it's super concerning.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of negativity that has come into this world from social media. But I do believe that there is so much room for growth and positivity and good to be found on social media. I get a lot of questions from people asking, how do you start being a content creator? And I never know how to answer it because it's not a one size fits all thing. I really fell into this, honestly, and I don't know if I would have been brave enough to give this a go if I hadn't had that happen to me circumstantially. I was paid by TikTok in the very beginning, a pretty low rate. Like it paid my expenses and it helped me get out of debt. But it was during the beginning of the pandemic. So I really needed the money. I'd gotten laid off from my job and I just started doing it and realized I really liked it. Had a couple of videos go viral and realized that I could monetize. Like, I remember the first time a brand sent me something, I was absolutely astounded.
Me too. I was shocked that this brand just wanted to send me their stuff for free.
I couldn't believe it. Shout out By Humankind. That was the first brand to ever send me anything, and I still love them. This is not to say that we don't absolutely love the brands that we work with, because neither one of us genuinely will promote something that we don't like. Like, genuinely. I can't.
We vet brands pretty well, and not only us, but our agency does too. Not only do brands go through our eyes, they go through a whole other team's eyes too.
And if you don't think that something we've ever done has been ethical or aligned, like, yeah, there's been times when we weren't perfect, but it is of the utmost importance to us both to promote brands that we genuinely use. And there's a fine line because sometimes I'll promote a brand knowing that they're not the most sustainable company under the sun, but I genuinely use what they make and I need it in my everyday life. So it's tricky.
That's where imperfect environmentalism comes in, though, because we're not pushing to be perfect.
That's correct. We're aiming for conscious consumerism, but at the end of the day, we all live under a capitalist society. We all need to pay our bills. We all need to make money. I think that this standard that a lot of environmentalists are held to, just in general, is insane, but specifically eco content creators, I feel they're held to a pretty ridiculous standard at times.
Yes. And not to get too much into it, but I remember a couple years ago, I posted a video about how we had gone down from 2 or 3 bags of trash in our trash can a week to one. And that video has recently gone re-viral and resurfaced, and I'm getting new engagement on it. But I'm also getting a lot of new comments from people that are negative, that are, you're living planet friendly. How are you living planet friendly if you're throwing things in the trash? How are you creating this trash? You're not very living planet friendly. And I feel like we're held to just such a higher standard. Or in homemade kitchen restocks, when I use a recipe that uses an egg.
That's crazy.
Sorry, I used an egg.
Oh God, don't get me started. Don't get me started. A quick checklist. Things that you should take into consideration if you're starting an online presence and you want to create internet content. If you are a very sensitive person, this might not be for you. And I am, for the record.
You need some thick skin.
Do I wish I had known that?
There was a couple months on YouTube where I was only getting negative comments, and it destroyed me to the point where if I read a negative comment, no matter what time of day it was, I would literally just go lay in bed.
Do you want the negative commenters to know that?
Are the negative commenters really listening to our podcast, though?
The vegans will listen and then send me emails. They hate me so
Yikes.
much. They hate me so much. I get emails all the time.
You need thick skin.
You need a thick skin, or you need to filter comments, maybe.
Oh, yes. That is really important to note. Filtering comments is to not only filter hateful words, but to also filter your personal information. Like, I have my full name, my husband's full name, our address, our city, our town, all under the comment filters. So comments don't go through with any of those words. I have to approve them first.
Damn, I should.
So if you are sensitive to those types of things, comment filters are very important.
If you are not good at managing money, you probably shouldn't freelance.
Or you should do a lot of research and talk to people who have been content creators for a long time to know what you're getting into.
100%. And you can message us, because I wish that someone had talked to me about all of the ins and outs of this before. So, something that I didn't know until I got into this industry is that your favorite influencer probably has a large team.
Yes.
Your favorite influencer, the amount of work that is going into the machine of creating content at the rate that some big influencers and content creators are, like, it's insane. They have probably a team of 5 to 10 people like working for them. I'm talking about the big guys. You know, if you have millions and millions of followers and you consistently get really high engagement, odds are you have a team of people behind the scenes helping make your work possible. A lot of people are hiring out their editors. A lot of people are hiring out strategists. I hired my first strategist this year and it has completely changed my life. I'm so grateful. She's helped us with this podcast. She's amazing. Something about doing what we do is you feel the need to wear so many different hats and be good at a lot of different things. And once you get to a certain point, you'll realize if you have the money to hire it out and to hire someone who's better than you at something, you should, in my opinion.
And there are some other things that I won't even touch. Like, I use QuickBooks to do all my expenses and my income. But when it comes to actually filing my taxes, I hire somebody to do that. I don't do anything with that. I know nothing.
We have an accountant.
We have an awesome tax guy.
Thank you, John. There's just a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts involved in doing everything as a one-man show. There is no accounting department. It is me. There's no editor. It is me. Everything is generally a one-man show until you get to a certain level, and then you start to wonder, how are people doing all this? Once they get big enough, they have a team of people a lot of the time.
If you had to do it all over again, would you get on this path of content creation or would you have chosen a different path?
I literally don't I can't imagine my life any other way. Genuinely. I know that we kind of just went over all of the negatives for a very long time, and that's not meant to discourage people. I just think I want people to have full knowledge of what they're getting into, but personally, I wouldn't change this career path. I think if anything, I would do more research and learn more and have more tools at my disposal. But I think once you start to kind of get going, you're just trying to keep your head above the water. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Completely.
I go back and I kick myself sometimes about all the things I should have done 2 years ago that I didn't do, that I now had to like backtrack and figure out how to do for my business. But there's no point in harping on that because I got to where I am now and I know better now. So there's really no roadmap for what we do. The freelance life is amazing. You can steer the ship wherever you want to go, but you have to be the one to steer it. You have to be a self starter. You have to be someone with a work ethic. Mine could be better. You have to be someone who really, really has the motivation. There were a solid 9 months where I did not make any money at all. And I'm not exaggerating. Like I had savings and I was able to do that because I was living off of my savings and I don't recommend that. I'm not saying that anyone should do that, but people only see the end product. And again, I'm not a big content creator by any means, but I make a living off of this and people only see the end product. Like they only see this, but they don't see, and all artists say that, feel that way. They don't see how you got to where you are. So there were a lot of really tough times. There still are. But to answer your question, I wouldn't change anything. I love my job so much. Like when I think about the things I'm grateful for, even if it's the worst work week of my life, it's always high on the list.
The worst work week of my life in content creation is nowhere near what it was when I was working a 9 to 5.
Right.
I relate in the same way that if I had to do this all over again, I would have left my full-time job sooner and became a full-time content creator sooner.
Girl, we told you to.
I know.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. It's a huge leap. It's scary.
It is. It is very scary.
And you made the leap. I didn't make the leap. I got fired, like, and the world shut down. So I didn't take the leap. There was actually a solid like 6 months where I was applying for jobs in the middle of a pandemic because I didn't accept that this is a reputable career.
Yeah.
Do you still have people like ask you like if you work?
Yes, there are a lot of people over a certain age that just don't understand.
What do you say when people ask you what you do? Because I still am like, oh, I'm a freelance sustainability content creator. And then I'm like, here we go. It's going to be a 20-minute conversation because I I don't know how to like answer that question, especially when it's someone who's not like within our demographic asking it.
It depends who I talk to. To anybody our age or our parents' age, I will say that I'm a content creator, and I will just say that I make content online for sustainable brands. That's like the easiest way to put it.
Right. And we love what we do.
I wouldn't change a thing except maybe to make more money.
I'd love to make more money. If anyone is listening that has any free money that they'd like to give us, just say the word, like link in bio, baby. Swipe up. Use my code for my Venmo.
There's a lot that goes into content creation because as content creators, we wear so many hats. We're not just sitting there making the content. We're planning the content, we're recording, we're editing, we're pitching ourselves, we're working with brands, we're reading contracts. There's so much that goes into it.
Right. I heard this quote and I can't remember how to cite it. So I'm really sorry. If this is your quote, shoot me a DM.
I'll add it to the show notes.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, just anonymous quote. But I heard somebody say, I'm under no false pretenses that my job is inherently hard, but I do work hard. When I tell you that this quote like hit me right in the heart, like that is how I feel about my job because man, we're not in the coal mines. Like we're literally videoing food. Like I know that this is a cushy job. I am so grateful. I am so grateful every single day that this is my job and this is my reality and I've monetized something I believe in and I love. It's not an inherently difficult job like comparatively to what so many people do. Like I'm not trying to make it seem like this is a really difficult job. Like this is an amazing job. We're so lucky to have it.
I want to say that it's a creatively difficult job.
I don't want people to get the impression that I'm saying, woe is me. I have to make food videos. Like, I love my life. I love my job. I'm so grateful, but I do work.
I think it's a different kind of difficult. It's a creative difficult. I mean, we're building and managing a business.
Yeah, it is work and I think it's worthwhile work. There's a lot of conversations to be had as to like how we're going to scale what we're doing for future us. And we can have those conversations in a different episode.
So I think we covered all of our bases with content creation.
Yeah, there really is so much more. So if you want another episode about this, if you're interested in this, we can do that in the future.
Thank you to everybody who tuned in for our third episode. We appreciate all of your support as we're getting this podcast up and off the ground. I know we're both having a really good time doing it, so we're glad that you're here to listen to it.
Yeah, thank you so much for supporting as we try new things. We spoke a little bit in the beginning of this episode about trying new things, and the podcast is a perfect example of that, actually. We don't know if we're good at this really yet, and it's a learning curve, but we're having a really good time doing it.
So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Bye! Just, how dare you?
Sorry. Here we go again.